This conference will now be recorded.
Thank you, Terry, for starting the recording. So it is 7 p.m., so we're going to call this meeting to order. I do have one very brief agenda item to add, and that's with regard to seasonal services on December 19th. So at this time, is there any other additions that anyone else would like to add?
Yes, Your Worship.
Sure, Mark, what would you like to add?
Efficiency Nova Scotia home warming program.
Perfect, thank you. Any other additions this evening? Okay, I would ask for a motion to approve the agenda with those two additions.
Move to approve as amended.
Thank you, Councilor McDougall. Do we have a seconder?
Second.
Seconded, I think, by Councilor Coyne. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Contrary minded? The agenda is approved with the two additions. This evening, we don't have any presentations, so we're going to move on to council reports on assigned committees. So maybe I'll just go around for committee reports. We can start perhaps with Councilor Coyne.
Thank you, Your Worship. On October 7th, the Parks and Recreation Active Living Committee Advisory Committee met. We spoke on a potential site for a skate park. So we opened up the discussion. There was 2 or 3 different ideas out. So we will continue to discuss where that potential site could be. Gordy was kind enough to give us an update on the tennis court lighting, and with it being this late into the year, we decided that we'll go ahead with that in the spring. Also discussed in that committee about a baseball camp, which is going to happen on October 23rd in Port Hawkesbury. Jacob Sanford, who's from the Dartmouth area, drafted by the New York Yankees, now playing in the farm system, is going to be putting on a baseball camp here in Port Hawkesbury on October 23rd. The posters are out, and it's been shared a lot, so hopefully we get good attendance there. And the Straight Richmond Housing Matters Coalition meeting, which you and I attended. We had lots of good discussion there, and we discussed about the possibility of a not-for-profit to get set up to potentially help with that housing. Also going back to the Parks and Rec, Terry Lee Wood was good enough to offer the park committee that has a not-for-profit, if we're going to do some fundraising, whether it's for lights for the ball field or a skate park or any other recreational opportunities. Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting. I attended that on the 13th, and we looked at potentially coming up with an economic development plan for the area, or for Port Hawkesbury. And that's my report.
Thank you, Councillor Coyne. I'm glad you brought up the Parks and Rec Committee because I had missed that on my report. So thanks for giving us some info on that. Over to you, Councillor McIver.
Yes, Your Worship. I have a waterfront meeting. We're going to schedule it for the end of the month, or 1st of November. The Eastern District Planning, we met and dealt with ongoing stuff there for the town for rezoning and stuff we talked about. The Police Advisory, we met in Port Hood and discussed the police matters of the town, and Councillor McDougall was also there. What other committee? We met, the Audit Committee met, and I think we dealt with that at our last meeting. I think that's about it for me.
Thank you, Councillor McIver. Councillor McDougall.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Jason and Mark went through some of the ones. I'm on the Parks and I supported the initiatives were taken there. I guess some of the ones that we didn't mention here, the Inverness Support Home Support Group. We met at the Civic Center on October 13th. The director, Angie McCackran, we met with members of the province. Some of the members were Kim Silver, she was the director of continuing care and senior long-term care. We met with Teresa Bartrowski, she was the manager of Home Community Department of Senior and Long-Term Care, and Michelle de Potaski, she was the director of continuous care for the Eastern Zone. There was a lot of concerns about, especially in the Port Hawkesbury area, with the number of clients that we have for home support, and the finances were not just there for our budget, and the staffing is not there. So I had mentioned to the director there, Michelle, and that the Premier Houston, his campaign he laid on was all healthcare. We were part of healthcare, so hopefully we'll be able to tap into some of that and get some of the budgetary monies we need. And that's an ongoing concern in the area. I guess the other committee that was not touched on is the Festival of the Strait Committee, which I'm on, and the mayor had called me earlier in the week and asked me if I could kind of lead up a thing. We lost our chair, and we're looking for a new chair. So I called Kevin McCackran, who's on the committee. He's a very good committee member, and him and I are going to meet and discuss. We're trying to get this sooner than later, for we'll have everything in place for the summer, so we can have a fine Festival of the Strait. We never had one the last couple of years. So we're going to meet and call a committee meeting and hopefully get a new chair. I guess that's my report for tonight, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McDougall, and thanks as well for doing that follow-up work for Festival of the Strait. I appreciate that. And over to Deputy Mayor McCrory for your reports.
Thank you, Your Worship. September 23rd, there was the Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health Committee meeting. It's always a full agenda at those meetings. We had an opportunity to be introduced to 3 healthcare initiatives coordinators who have been hired through funding from Nova Scotia Works, Employment Nova Scotia and Nova Scotia Works. They're going to be in place until next March. Their role is to assist our healthcare navigator position, the one that we have here with our committee, and the one in Sydney, CBRM, in hosting and organizing events for welcoming new healthcare staff to the area and helping in recruiting efforts as well. And along those lines, we talked about the fact that we've lost our health care navigator who we hired last June, Maggie McDonald, who has done a tremendous job in that role. And Maggie's gone on now to a job with Inverness County, their accessibility coordinator. So we have received, I think it was about 19 resumes for potential replacements, and there was a subcommittee struck to review those resumes and arrange for interviews. And I guess we'll be getting a report at this next month's meeting. September 29th, Street Area Transit did not meet. We had discussions, but there was not enough present for a formal meeting. Housing Advisory was on the 29th as well. I was unable to attend that meeting. October 13th, Street Richmond Housing Matters. I was unable to attend that meeting. I think that was last Wednesday. And yesterday was the Accessibility Committee. Again, there was no quorum, but the folks that did attend, we had some discussions about ways to give residents an opportunity to identify challenges that we need to address in our accessibility plan, which must be completed by April 2022. And the goal for the committee is looking to be able to have a draft plan to present to council for February 2022. So that's my report.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. And maybe I'll just kind of fill in some of the blanks with, and I appreciate everybody's reports, so there's no sense in providing redundant information. We did meet for the airport committee on September 22nd. And of course, as I've reported in other committee of the whole meetings, COVID has certainly had a dramatic impact on Celtic Air and their ability, for, I guess, just for the business aspect of the company. It certainly reduced the flights coming into the airport dramatically. As well, at the airport committee that could be of interest to council, there was consensus that we will be looking at arranging a strategic planning session to talk about a multi-year kind of approach to how we can position the airport for recovery post-COVID, as well as make sure that we're doing what we can to see that the airport is thriving and growing. So we're hopeful. Right now we're working with the Cape Breton Partnership to see what we can arrange in terms of hosting a strategic planning session. Amanda Mumbercat and I kind of, took on the homework side of things to make, or, to come up with a plan for a strategic planning session. So we were able to connect with Carl on October 7th to talk a little bit about what that potential plan could look like. And we hope to meet again in advance of our next airport meeting that we hope to have at some point in November to look at strategic planning and to continue the business of our committee. Just to, I guess, add a little bit to Blaine's report on the accessibility advisory meeting. So one of our committee members, Kathy, was able to set up, and of course, and thank you for your report, Blaine. Part of the challenge around community consultations with regard to getting feedback from our community for both opportunities and challenges around accessibility and around our indoor and outdoor built environment is because of COVID, we have to be a little bit creative in how we're going to be collecting data and gathering feedback from citizens and in the community and other accessibility stakeholders. So one of the avenues that we agreed upon as a group was to start a social media page, which Kathy took the initiative to begin yesterday. And just the last time I checked, there was already 112 citizens in that group and already great engagement talking about accessibility challenges and opportunities. So Matthew Higgins, who co-chairs that group with me, he and I are going to try to meet before the next meeting, which will take place next Monday, to talk a little bit about potential milestones that we can achieve and a timeline to get us to potentially being able to bring a draft of our accessibility plan to council for February. So more to come on that committee. And just to add to the Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health, I was part of the interviewing subcommittee. So hopefully by the next committee of the whole, we'll be able to report on the new navigator position and who was the successful candidate. And lastly, just I thought the council would be interested in, I was invited to TAC on September 23rd to talk to the grade 8 French immersion students about municipal government. It was a really great session and the kids were super engaged and asking all kinds of great questions. And anyway, as a follow-up from that engagement piece, the kids from the class, there's 19 of them in total, they're going to be mailing letters to council about some of the ideas that they have for the town and how we can grow the town. So I thought that council would get a kick out of those letters. And don't worry, you won't have to translate them from French. Stephanie, the teacher, has agreed that the kids will send us the French version and on one side and then the English version on the other. So I'm really excited to be able to share those with council. I think we'll be able to garner some pretty cool ideas. I know that some of the ideas that were shared in the class were pretty awesome, and I really feel like some of these kids we should invite to our waterfront development committee, Mark, because they had some really cool ideas about waterfront development. Anyway, so of course I didn't go through my whole report, but of course, like as always, if council has any questions, you're more than willing to answer those, and you can contact me at any time. Okay, is there any other comments?
Your worship, just a question. Yeah, I'm just wondering what that site was, that page or group was called.
Sure, it's accessibility in Port Hawkesbury, I believe. I sent you an invite.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, and if maybe later this evening, if you can't find it, I'll help. I'll just send you a link in Messenger.
Okay, great, thanks.
No problem. All right, so is there any other lingering reports on assigned committees? Okay, we'll move on then. I'll hand things over to our Chief Administrative Officer, Terry Doyle, for our CAO reports. Thanks, Terry.
Thank you, Your Worship. If it's okay with you, we'll move away a little bit from what's on agenda, just to match up with slides with our committee reports. So I'm going to start with facilities, operations, and parks, and I'd like Gordy to address the first report.
Thank you, Terry. Through you, Your Worship, and to council, I'll do a brief, go through my brief report. Start with the Civic Center. We're currently following Phase 5 COVID public health guidelines, open in Phase 5 and requiring proof of vaccination when necessary. Part of Phase 5 is we are allowing food and beverages now in the building, and our canteen is now open, serving the public. Moving on to our fields, our school soccer is underway. They're still getting some use out of the soccer field, and we've started on the other fields and green spaces. We've started our fall maintenance program, which includes this aeration, fall fertilizer, lime, soil, and overseeding wherever necessary. Both pools are currently in operation and going well. Our beautification has more or less wrapped up for the summer season, spring-summer season. Our baskets have been removed, and our watering program is complete. I think I mentioned this last month, but I wanted to touch on it again. The new generator has been completely commissioned, including the transfer switch at the fire hall. The roof was re-shingled last week, including flashing and starter strips, ice shield, the whole, it was a nice job, whole job done there. The yacht club has pretty much ceased their operations for the fall season. Into the fall, they've removed their crafts and put them to storage and in the parking lot. And just wanted to touch on the accessibility side in a couple of pictures there where we, Public Works have done some great work improving our sidewalks and curb cuts and our ramps and adding tactile indicator panels. So we continue to move forward and to make the town more accessible, and something we should be proud of. So that's my brief report for tonight, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Gordy. Any questions for Gordy at this time? Okay. Thanks so much. And if anybody has
I just have one, Your Worship.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor.
It's not necessarily a question, as it is through you to Gordy. Gordy, being involved with minor ball this year and then high school baseball this year, I just want to give a kudos to the rec department for all their hard work that they put into those fields. They were absolutely fabulous this year.
Yep.
So just a thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Corn. I'll certainly pass that on to the staff.
Thanks, Gordy. And back over to you, Terry.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I'll hand it over to Michelle for Marketing, Recreation, Culture, Tourism report.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm not sure if my camera is working. Can you guys see me?
No.
No, my apologies. I'm not sure why that's not working. Maybe it'll pop on. Good evening, everyone. I'll begin my report with a summary on the work that has been done on the trails over the past month or so. The Strait Area Trails Association once again has completed more work spreading chips on the Davis Brook Loop. The group has also repurposed ramps from the old waterfront playground to make 90 feet of boardwalk for the muddy areas on the Hemlock Trail. It's just beautiful. New stone was placed at the Spruce Trailhead, and the group assisted with the grade 6 to 12 cross-country regional competition. And we're currently in the process of applying for a new trail maintenance program grant for the Tamarack Trail for some ditching and culverts on that trail. The Strait Area Pool, we officially opened on October 12th. The pool is open 4 days a week and offering swimming lessons, public swim, lane swim, water fitness, and water exercise. There's a picture of our team during their training for water safety instructing. Sports Wall of Fame, we have announced the inductees. We did a press release for the inductees for 2021. Sean Charles McDonald, Wayne Grenville Reynolds, and Brian Ellis Langley will be inducted at the event on November 14th, and invitations will come soon for that event. Just to touch on proof of vaccination, we've been pretty regularly collaborating with the facilities department and working with all user groups and program facilitators. And we now have a clear process for ensuring that groups are requesting proof of vaccination. And we're really having to work collaboratively and really one-on-one with all of our user groups at the Civic Center. So it's actually kind of added a nice face-to-face touch to our dealings with our user groups. So it's actually kind of a nice change. Recreation programming, we were successful in receiving a Community Works grant, $5,400 to assist with some costs in delivering our summer camp program. So that's really exciting. Our fall programming has begun, and the department hosted an adult paint night. I think there's a picture of our paint night. Youth craft class and a basketball clinic. And upcoming, we have children's yoga, hip hop dance, Halloween crafts, music, guitar lessons, chair yoga, wellness retreat, and line dancing, which has proved to be really, really popular. We have a lot of people signed up for that, so we're excited about that one. As well, weekly basketball and pickleball at the Sarek Gym has begun, and public skating at the Civic Center. And just to quickly note, the senior adult skate has a slight time change to Monday, Wednesday, Friday from noon to 2. And that came from a special request from the users who are there most of the time. So we made that change to accommodate the group and what they preferred for their time. Upcoming events, we've got a comedy show on Thursday night, October 21st. Our annual 'Tis the Season show with Bette and Maynard McDonald, and a Lenny Gallant Christmas show coming up on December 16th. And we have a couple of offers out for concerts in the new year, so I'll update you next time on that one. Marketing and communications, I'm currently working on the sponsorship package for Granville Green 2022. We did apply also for a digital tourism grant to assist with some costs in website and social media updates, so we're hoping to be successful for that. And I also included the new updated Civic Center Arena sponsorship program. I know it's kind of hard to see on the slides, but if anybody would like a copy, please let me know. It's also available on our website, and we sent it out through the Chamber of Commerce as well. And just a note on our total page likes for our social media page, they increased from 3,519 to 3,552 in the last month. And that is all I have for this evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Does anybody have any questions for Michelle at this time or comments? Councillor O'Coin?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Michelle and also to Gordy, I guess. I've attended a few events at the Civic Center at the rink already this winter, and I have to congratulate everybody involved, because every time you go in, it's the same experience. They're asking for the same vaccination, they're asking for the ID. It's a very smooth process, and I just thumbs up for being able to organize this and getting it to work as smooth as we have. So thanks to the two of you.
Thank you.
Through the chair. Thank you so much.
How has the process been, Gordy and Michelle, with regard to that, I guess, that adventure?
I can speak for the arena side of it. It's been really good. It's a total uptake from the public. We've had very little, if any, issues at all. People are more or less really willing to produce the required documentation to attend practices and games, and it's been very little issues at all.
That's
Through the chair, yes, I would have to agree. It's been a pretty smooth transition, and the user groups it almost seems like they expect change on a daily basis now. So it's actually been quite easy to deal with everybody. We really haven't had many issues at all.
That's fantastic. Council, do you have any other questions or comments?
Just your worship, through you to Michelle or Gordy. I was at the Civic Center today at the Shannon Studio, and we had Port Osprey Paper had a book there for the day, and somebody should congratulate and thank the canteen on the wonderful service they gave us today, and the workers for the quick turnaround between the morning session and the afternoon session. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, back over to you, Terry. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. So I'll just hand it over to Aaron to give us a finance update. Thanks.
Through Your Worship. So as part of your package, there was a financial or income statement to the end of September compared to budget, as well as the full details of the accounts that are summarized in that report. If you wanted to get into the details of all the accounts to the end of September. So just going to go through some of the variances and highlights of that report that would have been in your package. So next slide, please, Terry. And we'll go through the revenue side of that report first. And typically what I do here is just kind of report on the variances that are 50,000 or more on such large revenue lines that would be considered kind of reportable. So the first one being the assessable property taxes. So you can see our budget is trending our actuals are trending higher than our budget by about $70,000. Partially that's relating to the timing of our Bell Alliant grant in lieu. So it was budgeted to be coming in later in the year and was received earlier. So that's a timing difference. But another piece of that relates to a higher deed transfer tax than budgeted at this point in time during the year. And our deed transfer tax is about $30,000 over budget at this point in time. I am seeing sales slowing a little bit in the last month or so over where they would have been last year and what we saw in the summer, but still a very positive market in the town of Port Hawkesbury for real estate sales, which is what pushes our deed transfer tax up. So that's a nice trend to see. The next variance I'll talk about, hard to see here, but sales of services being our kind of civic center revenues or conference facility or aquatics is about $200,000 under budget at this point in time in the year. That's primarily due to COVID shutdown. So our civic center was closed for a period of time. Our aquatics facility was closed for a period of time. opening up later in the year. We basically missed our whole spring session in the pool, which is why that's trending under budget. And the other notable item is our conditional government transfers, and that's primarily timing. It's $89,000 over budget at this point in time, but that's just based on the timing of our MPAL funding that we've received, timing of our Divert Nova Scotia funding, as well as the Literacy Council funding coming from the Department of Labor and Advanced Education. So nothing really serious on the revenue side. Nothing unexpected. We did know that COVID has changed the operations quite significantly and reduced some of our sales, which is not nothing to be surprised about, but just something to be reported on. Next slide, please, and we'll look at the expenditures. So there's a little more variance here that you'll see, just because the revenue lines are a little bit more consistent. Or sorry, the size of the expenditure lines are a little more consistent when you look at department to department. So first thing we'll report on is the general government services. So the first line in your chart. And we're trending about $150,000 under budget in government services. A lot of that is timing of payments on donations, on some of the regional funding that we provide, some of our IT costs and kind of shared IT service costs happen for later on in the year. But some of it is true variances. Due to COVID, there's been very little travel done by staff and council. So that's what we're seeing there in that line. The next one we'll look at is the transportation and public works. We're about $80,000 under budget in that line item. Again, some of that's timing of power accounts for streetlights, timing of when we're doing our sidewalk work, and some of our repairs accounts. It's really hard to budget the time of when those repairs may be required or if they'll be required. So some of those accounts, materials accounts, repairs accounts, are trending a little bit lower than where we were expecting at this point in time. But that can change throughout the year. And you've heard this from me before. Typically in public works, a lot of our costs are incurred in the winter season and can fluctuate quite significantly. So something just to keep an eye on moving forward. Wastewater, another item trending under budget by about $75,000. Again, timing differences of power accounts. And some of that's a little bit of allocation of time. So our time in public works is allocated based on a time card, which is based on where folks are working. So that can move between water, wastewater, roads and streets. So we budget based on where we think the wages will be, but they could be landing in another bucket. And again, some repair and maintenance accounts that are trending under budget that could fluctuate depending on how things go through the year. And I know there is an expenditure we're expecting in wastewater that council agreed to move forward with that hasn't been installed. It's the one of the grinders at the plant. So that will probably flip that line a bit, or that account or that line a bit more in line with budget. The next item to discuss is our recreation and cultural services. Again, $198,000 trending under budget. Partially timing of some of our accounts, but again, where we had closure of our facilities, aquatics and the Civic Center, we also saw a reduction in our savings in operating costs in those areas. They're the only reportable, I guess, differences that I was reporting on tonight, but just to give you an overall sense of where things are at. COVID obviously continues to impact the operations and the financials of the town of Port Hawkesbury. We did have some strong rentals due to having the COVID testing center in our facility, which was a nice pickup, I guess, from a revenue perspective. That's no longer there. So we're really unsure right now as to when operations will return to pre-pandemic, or if they will return to pre-pandemic levels. We'll continue to watch that. But right now I have no financial concerns at this time. With the Safe Restart grant that we received last year, And, you know, very nice trending on the expenditure side of things on the financial, within the financial statements. I have no concerns of, you know, seeing a deficit, an overall deficit at the end of the year. So that's just my report. There was a lot of detail in the report that was sent out to you. If there's any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them now.
Thanks, Erin. Is there any questions for Erin at this time from council? Councillor Coyne?
Just go ahead, Huey.
No, your worship, through you, I had just a comment to Erin. Great report as always, and since we hired you, and what year was that?
2010, I think. A long time ago.
They're all great reports.
Thanks, Huey. Thanks, Councillor.
Over to you, Councillor Coyne.
Through your worship, Aaron, just one question about the Civic Center and the bills there. Did we receive our power bills and propane bills from the month of August?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions or comments with regard to the finance report? Thank you, Erin, and back over to you, Terry, for the remainder of the CAO reports.
Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. I'm going to hand it over to Jason, who will do engineering and public works. This is a fairly long portion off the report, but there's a lot of work happening in that department, so I'm going to hand it over to Jason.
Thank you, Terry. Through you, your worship. In your community, the whole package, a monthly traffic sign report was included. As always, very typical data at the current sign location. Wanted to advise that Public Works staff are currently undertaking fall water main and hydrant flushing operations this week, actually. So we have 2 staff working the night shift, conducting that work between the hours of 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. And this is done to reduce any impacts to residents with regards to water discoloration or pressure fluctuations. And it also allows our systems to recover more easily throughout the night and early morning. Notices have been provided in all the typical ways to advise residents of this work, and quite confident that folks have been advised well, and we've had no questions or negative comments on social media or directed to the shop about this work. Early in October, we had Trim Landscaping come to town to replace 8 trees that were identified as dead trees through our Reeve Street project, and I was really impressed with Trim coming to do this. This is probably a little bit outside of our 2-year warranty window, and without hesitation, they agreed to come and replace those trees that we identified in July. They wanted to wait until October because this is optimal conditions for planting such trees to ensure that there's adequate watering and a little bit of time before winter sets in for the root mass to take. In addition to those 8 trees, Trim also replaced the 3 trees adjacent to the community tire entrance that were vandalized earlier in the summer. So happy to have that work done and to see the beautiful trees along Reeve Street back to the way they should be. Philpott Street sidewalk project. Public Works recently completed about 380 feet of new sidewalk in that block between Hiram Street and Prince Street. It's a nice piece of work. The guys kind of did a phenomenal job, and they're pretty proud of it. The work involved landscaping, asphalt reinstatements, replacement of all sidewalk panels, driveway aprons, curb sections where required, pedestrian ramps, complete with TWIS, accessible tactile walking surface indicator plates that Gordy had alluded to earlier. So since the completion of that first block, we've moved on and working on the second block on Philpott Street. So that's a priority for our crew, and looking forward to finishing that block as well. So all we need on the first block is for the grass to grow, and just a couple of pictures we added of that work. So there was a concrete pour there today as well. So Landry Lake, happy to report. So we had a local diving contractor in at Landry Lake to do the annual inspection of the intake structure. Inspection work was very safe and professional, and happy to report that our intake structure and infrastructure underwater at Landry Lake is in good repair, cleaned, and ready to provide lots of raw water to our customers for another year. We've undertaken a smaller project to install CCTV security camera systems at our treatment facilities as well. So this work is currently underway now. The wastewater treatment plant system was installed today, and work has started at Landry Lake, and we should see this work finish off by the end of the month. This is a nice addition to our sites. Site security and surveillance is a requirement of our operating approvals from Nova Scotia Environment. So we do have alarmed buildings at these sites, which is great, but it's important to add that multi-layer of security and surveillance, because they're extremely important pieces of infrastructure for our community. Moving on to tenders and procurement, we've had a fairly busy month in this area, issuing four procurement and tender documents. Two RFPs, one being the Urban Planning, Active Transportation Design and Engineering Services for our large multi-phase ICIP active transportation project. So this is a nice RFP to have out there, and we hope to have lots of interest from qualified firms. Closing date is October the 28th, and we'll advise council on the outcome of all of these procurement exercises. Landry Lake Water Utility Consulting Services has also been issued recently, and actually today. This is to create an emergency management plan for the utility that adheres to Canadian Dam Association safety guidelines. So it's another important piece of work which will combine some documents that we already have related to the Landry Lake utility, update some others, and kind of generate an overarching document that will provide staff with proper guidance for responding to any not so nice conditions with the Landry Lake system and dam structures and pumping station. Tamarack Trail Network Improvements is a tender that was issued on October 7th. This relates to the first phase of our AT upgrades, which was scheduled for this year. So that tender closes on October 21st, and it pertains to the sections of the trail along the existing Tamarack pathway between Sydney Road and Tamarack subdivision. And last but not least, there's a tender currently issued for process control upgrades and MCC removal at the water treatment plant, and this closes on the 28th as well. This work is 50% funded through the PCAP program, which is great, and it relates to required process control and electrical equipment upgrades at the water treatment plant. So, very happy to be able to move these projects along and certainly keep us busy throughout the winter. Moving on, I want to speak to our draft winter control policy that was provided to council for review at our last meeting, and I kind of breezed through the policy rather quickly in the last meeting, and wanted to kind of check to see if council had any questions or comments on the policy. It's a fairly detailed document. Essentially, what it does, it describes the level of service that we currently provide to residents for winter control work, which involves plowing, salting, sanding, and everything else that goes along with those operations. If anyone has any questions or comments, by all means, I'd be happy to speak to those. And feel free to reach out after the meeting as well if you have something that requires a little bit of a longer discussion. In addition to the winter control policy, which I would like to kind of go into a little more in depth on, we would like for council to consider the purchase of a snow pusher attachment for our current Cat 450 backhoe. It's the largest backhoe that Caterpillar makes, and we have used it in some capacities for snow removal, winter control operations in the past, but would like to build on that. By purchasing a snow pusher attachment, it's going to greatly improve the efficiency for snow removal in our town parking lots. It's going to enable us to easily stack snow and push back snow banks, intersections, and just really save time, and it'll enable us to better use our heavy equipment fleet that we have at our disposal for winter control work. And we've discussed this attachment in depth with staff, and they certainly would appreciate the opportunity to use that, and we feel that we can improve the efficiency and better the level of service to residents with a piece of equipment like this. We did reach out for pricing. A 10-foot snow pusher attachment that would clamp on to the existing front bucket of our backhoe. With the purchase of the attachment itself and some incidentals, binder kit, wear shoes, etc., would be slightly around $10,000 plus tax. We wanted to bring this forward to council for their consideration of the purchase of this attachment. In speaking with the Director of Finance, there is funds available for this equipment in budget through a capital reserve account, and Aaron can speak to that a little better, I'm sure, if anybody has any detailed questions on the funding availability. But yeah, so if I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone may have about the winter control policy, or really any part of our engineering and public works report for this month and the winter control policy draft.
Thanks, Jason. You actually answered one of the questions I had written down about whether or not we could absorb the purchase in our existing budget. Just one other question, like in terms of timing, like how long would it take to order it and have it on time for our upcoming snow removal season?
So we're in pretty good shape there with actually the lowest price that we received for the attachment through CAT. Actually, there's a 3 to 4 week delivery on those attachments right now. So if ordered soon, we'd be in good shape to have it for the worst part of our winter control conditions.
Thank you, Jason. I'm going to open up the floor for any questions or comments at this time.
Yes, Your Worship. I would support bringing that forward to the November 2nd public meeting. I'm prepared to make a motion to support the purchase of that snow pusher.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other comments or questions for Jason?
Yeah, through you, Your Worship. Jason, the sidewalk looks really good there on Philpott Street. This Public Works did a fantastic job, and it's good to see that we're able to continue on to do another section. Lord knows we have lots of sections to get done, but that's a really, really good start. The trees, I'm pretty sure I noticed 3 trees, Jason, between Pitt Street lights and the TD Bank building that looked like they were dead. Were those trees replaced?
So the trees that were identified as dead back in our assessment in July, they were removed shortly after they were deemed that they would not come back or survive. So any of the trees that were left along the side of the street still had life and vigor and should come back next season. Although some of them did seem to lose a lot of their foliage early in the fall. We did hire a landscaping contractor late in the summer to do a lot of pruning and fertilizing and general maintenance on our trees along Reef Street as well. So there certainly has been a lot of attention and care, and we hope to see them continue to thrive in an environment that's been quite well known to be very difficult to have successful tree growth long term.
Great. Thank you very much, Jason. Thanks.
Yep.
Deputy Mayor, any other follow-up questions or comments from council?
Yes, Your Worship, through you. Maybe if we had a consensus of council to agree in whole on the backhoe attachment for their public meeting, that would allow Jason to move forward maybe a little faster with it and get it in time, if council agrees with that.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion, Councillor McIver. And I know Deputy Mayor McCrory has already expressed his support. I certainly would support Councillor McIver. I assume your suggestion is premised with support.
Yes.
Councillor O'Coin and Councillor McDougall, what's your thoughts on that suggestion?
Yes, Your Worship, through you. I think it's a good suggestion, yes.
Okay, Councillor O'Coin?
Yes, I would support that as well.
Okay, so we can ratify that in our November meeting, but it looks, Jason, to be that you have the support for the purchase.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate that, Council. We'll move forward with the purchase right away.
Perfect. And I guess Was there any other follow-up questions with regard to updating our snow removal policy or any other items under Public Works update?
Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, go ahead, Councilor McIver.
Maybe again with consensus of council, if we move this forward to our November public meeting for approval.
Yeah, we can ratify the motion at that time, correct?
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? Any other comments or questions? Okay, go ahead, Councillor Coyne.
To Jason, just echo some of the comments already made. The sidewalks, it's second to none. Look, the work looks fantastic. I was actually down and visiting the guys this afternoon while they were doing some more of the sidewalk work, and it's just incredible that such a small crew can get such a big amount of work done, and the quality of the work is, like I said, second to none. I think that I'm sure I speak for all the council when I say I'm really proud of the turnout on that. It looks great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Certainly pass those comments along.
Thanks, Jason, very much also for your report. And I would turn things back over to Terry. Terry, is there any other reports pending for the CAO report section?
Your Worship, I just want to add just a little bit more information. There's 3 service contracts that are due for renewal at this point in time. So staff is preparing to go to the marketplace for proposals for those services, and those services include security, legal, and real estate. So just to make council aware that you'll be seeing some documentation around that coming your way over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, thank you very much.
That's our report.
Perfect. Thank you, Terry. I guess just to provide council with the opportunity, whether or not there may be any follow-up questions or comments based on the call for proposals that Terry just mentioned. Okay. So hearing none, then we're going to move on to other business under agenda item number 7. The first item is advisory committee meetings, and I'll hand things over to Terry for that item.
Yes, Your Worship, thank you. This is just some information from advisory committees, and I think council is aware of this, but we have had, I think, considerable difficulty getting quorum for many of our advisory committees. And so we're just looking at ways to help ensure that we're able to move forward with these committees. There's been some discussion on combination of committees, which of course that's a decision of council. We're also going to look at attendance of those some initial members who had, I'm sure, joined with good intentions, but haven't been able to follow through on the commitment. So we'll be looking at that, and we'll be bringing more information back with respect to the extent of the problem and some of the solutions. Timings of the meetings is also another issue that we're looking at. I know that timing is an issue for some of the committee members. So it's just an information point that we thought was worthy to bring forward to council at this point.
Thanks, Terry, for that. Is there any comments or questions with regard to this item, or any questions of clarification? Okay. We'll move on then to virtual in-person meetings, and I'll again hand this over to you, Terry.
Yes, Your Worship. So I was asked to bring this forward at the Committee of Whole. Our last discussion was with respect to holding our public council meetings, our Committee of Whole, our advisory committee, either in person or virtually, or a combination of those two. The decision of council at the last review was that we would continue with the virtual format. So we are in phase 5 now. That's well entrenched with the procedures around that. But I bring it back to council for your consideration, whether you wish to stay in the virtual format or consider in-person meetings at this time, or defer the decision again.
Thank you, Terry, for adding that under other business. I'll just open the floor up for discussion with regard to this item. Maybe we can start with Councillor McIver.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, phase 5, I think we're okay to have our council meetings. I don't mind meeting in person. I do know that I think we're still under state of emergency. Am I correct, Terry?
Yes.
So that if council decides, we can still go virtual too. But I'm okay with in person.
Thank you, Councillor McIver. Deputy Mayor McCrory.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I'm fine with in-person meetings.
Thank you. And Councillor Coyne.
I think we all know my answer to this one. I'm definitely in favor.
In favor of virtual or in person?
Oh no, in person.
I don't want you to leave us on a subtle note, Jason. Okay, and Councillor McDougall.
No, I feel the same way, Your Worship, until this is resolved. If anybody wants to go virtually, they should be able to.
Okay, so are you suggesting, Councillor McDougall, that we could potentially do hybrid meetings, or you're suggesting that we stay with the virtual venue?
Well, the hybrid, I'm suggesting if anybody wants to stay virtual, they can. If anybody wants to go in person, well, that's their prerogative. In my opinion, Your Worship, everybody's different with their health issues, so that's just my opinion.
Right. Okay, so we have had the opportunity to hear from everyone. Does council feel like they need a little bit more information with regard perhaps to what some of the other municipalities are doing here in the eastern zone? Is that something that would, I guess, assist a decision moving forward? Maybe we could ask staff to, I guess, to get some information with regard to what other councils are doing in phase 5 at this point, and perhaps we can move this forward to our November meeting for further discussion. How does everybody feel about that?
Your Worship, I think we can go forward with the virtual or the in-person meetings and also have the virtual ability as well for individuals that might want to participate virtually. So I don't know that there is a need. It seems like the 3 of us are at least on the same page as far as the in-person meetings, but I support that hybrid idea.
Sure. Councillor,
I personally don't see the need to canvass where we've got seemingly some consensus here.
sure. Well, we'll see how other people land on the hybrid idea. Councillor McIver, what's your thoughts on the hybrid idea?
Yes, Your Worship, I think that's a good idea that we do it that way. If the individuals don't want to attend personal meetings, and maybe staff would put together some protocol for the gallery. Like, are they going to be double vaccinated, wear masks at all times while sitting in the gallery? I think something like that put forth would make other councillors maybe feel more comfortable.
Sure, that's a great suggestion, just to have some kind of parameters built into a hybrid type of a format. Councillor Coyne.
I would support the hybrid meetings. I think Councillor McIver brought up a good idea. I'm just not sure. Are we allowed to ask for double vax for a council meeting? Is that an okay ask through you, Your Worship, to Terry?
Terry?
Yes, so Department of Health has ruled on that, and mandatory vaccination is not required for those attending council meetings, but the masking is required. And if we wish, we can put in rules around social distancing as well. But the public attendance at council meetings does not require proof of vaccination.
Okay.
Through you, Your Worship.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Maybe for the time being, if we're going to be doing a hybrid, we could continue to send invitations to attend the meetings virtually until everybody is comfortable enough or the state of emergency is over. And that would possibly make people more comfortable as well.
Okay, so those are all great suggestions. And, you know, if council is in support of a hybrid format, we can certainly move that forward to our November meeting for ratification, and that'll give some time for kind of staff to build those kind of parameters or rules around attending in person with regard to the public state of emergency as well as the public health protocols. So is council okay with moving that forward for consideration for a November meeting?
Yes, Your Worship.
Okay.
Yes.
Councillor McIver and McDougall.
Yes, I'm good with that. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor McDougall.
Yeah, okay, Your Worship. Thanks.
Perfect. Any other comments or questions on this item? Okay, we'll move on to the next item. There was a letter from a citizen living in town that was circulated to council with regard to a request to have a pilot for backyard hens. My recommendation to council would be to have staff take this and look at how this may or may not be implemented, and to come to our November meeting with potentially a staff recommendation on the request. That's the thoughts of council on that go forward.
Your Worship, I agree with you and your suggestion for staff to bring some information forward to the November public meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Coyne, I'm not sure if that was you or Councillor McIver.
Through Your Worship, Terry, could you just maybe change that slide for a minute? There's personal phone numbers on there that might not be best suited to be on there. And yeah, I would support the staff doing a report on that.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Councillor McDougall.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you. Yeah, I guess we'll have to get some information on the whole thing. I know that it didn't work so good in other communities, but we'll get the report from council. I support that, yes.
Thank you, Councillor McDougall. Councillor McIver.
Yes, Your Worship, I don't know at this time if we can grant anything like that until we amend our bylaw, but a suggestion to staff through you, Terry, is maybe check with HRM. I think they just put in a new bylaw for, I think it's up to 12 chickens. And there's quite a criteria that you have to meet in order to have them. So I think maybe a request to them to ask them for a copy of their bylaw. That'll give us more information on how to move forward on it.
That's great. Any other comments or questions before we move on? Okay, perfect. So Terry, I guess we'll leave this with staff in terms of coming back with a recommendation and more information. That way we can move forward, whether it's a pilot or whatnot. We can have that conversation at our November meeting. The next item is, well, it's a request that's come forward to council. I know, Mark, you're probably much more well-versed with this than I am, but NSCC and the Strait Area Nautical Institute are going to be celebrating their 25th anniversary, and they have requested for council for early November to be able to do a flag raising event here at the Civic Center. So I would put that request forward to council for consideration. I don't have, and I apologize, I don't have a specific date, but they're going to let us know. I think it's pending when they're able to receive the flag that we would be raising at that time. So what is council's thoughts on that?
Well, Your Worship, I guess I agree.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor McIver.
I also agree.
Thank you, Councillor O'Coin.
I agree as well. Yeah, no, that's all I'll have to say. I agree as well.
Thank you. Councillor McDougall.
Yeah, Your Worship, I agree.
Okay, so we'll move that forward. We probably will have a date by our November public meeting, so we'll be able to move that forward as a motion. Thank you, Council. So I'm going to hand things over to Jason to discuss this next item, and it's something that I think Jason and I have discussed over the last, I'd say, month or two, as something that we can do that's fun and also kind of help build some interest and membership around the gym here at the Civic Center. So over to you, Jason.
Thank you. So, like Mayor Brenda has been saying, Brenda and I have been discussing this for a little while, and I spoke to a couple of councillors already, I believe, about it. So I'm looking to see if council would be interested in challenging the Hawk to a biggest loser challenge. So looking at anywhere from 8 to 10 week challenge. Jens at the gym would kind of come up with weekly goals to reach. And we would do a weigh-in at the start, a weigh-in I think halfway through, and then a weigh-in at the end. And obviously those who lost the most pounds or maybe percentage would be deemed the biggest loser in a good way, I guess. And like Brenda was saying, I think this is a way that we can really promote the gym in the Civic Center and maybe draw some interest in people watching it or following it on social media, wherever the case may be, and maybe get some new members in at the gym and help a small local business right now that's not really thriving and maybe even suffering a little bit from the conversations I've had. So I'm just kind of want to poll the council and see if we can get enough people involved.
Jason, do we have an idea of a number? Like, are we thinking 4 or 5 participants each?
Ideally, I would like to challenge the Hawk 5 versus 5.
Okay, I'm certainly willing to participate. I think it's for a very good cause. Maybe we'll just go around and I'll hand things over to Councillor McDougall.
Yes, Your Worship. I don't know how you're going to take this, but we got a lot to lose either way.
I'm not going to take it in any way whatsoever, Councillor McDougall. Did you want to add to that?
No, I support it. I'd be part of it. Yeah.
Okay, Councillor McIver.
Yes, Your Worship. Jason spoke to me earlier about it, and I agree with Yui that we have a lot to lose. So I'd participate in it.
That's fantastic. Thank you. And Deputy Mayor McCrory.
Yeah, I support it.
But the bigger question is, will you participate with us?
I support it.
I don't know, Councillor Coyne, was that a clear enough answer? Maybe we can get some.
I will happily participate.
There we go. We got 5.
That's great. That's definitely a very clear answer. I appreciate that, Deputy Mayor. So we can definitely engage with maybe Jason. Can we leave this with you as a go forward, and you can speak with Jens at Body and Soul, and then we can coordinate and maybe create a communications plan and an actual start and end date with Jens and the Hawk, and I'm sure that the Hawk won't mind doing some social media and promotions around this, and may the best team win.
I hope to be able to have an answer by the public meeting.
That sounds great. And thanks everyone for being such great sports. And it is it's never been so cool to be the biggest loser. So we do have another item for council consideration under other business. And Terry has circulated for the benefit of council a draft letter for the Elm Court zoning amendment. And I hope that council's had an opportunity to review that letter. And at this time, if council would like to comment or suggest any revisions or additions or potential omissions from this letter, now is the time to do that. So maybe I'll go around and we'll start with Councillor Aucoin.
No, I read the letter and I thought it was good. I think we're getting our point across, and I really like the idea of sending along the petitions with it. I think that it will draw some attention, and it'll just back up exactly what the letter has been stating. So I support it 100%.
Yeah, Deputy Mayor McCrory.
Yeah, Your Worship, I wonder if Terry could put the letter up and go through the letter for the benefit of those that are joining us virtually.
Okay. Terry, you have that? Okay, perfect. You have the slide ready. That's great. There you are. Would you like Terry to read the letter aloud, Deputy Mayor?
Yes, Your Worship.
Okay, over to you, Terry.
Yes, Your Worship. So the letter is to it's Minister Lohr, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and it's with respect to this is a letter of clarification with respect to amendments to the Town of Port Hawkesbury Municipal Planning Strategy and Land Use Bylaw in reference to Elm Court lots 141 to 149. The Town of Port Hawkesbury wishes to provide clarification with respect to our June 2021 submission to Mr. Gordon Smith, Director of Planning, with respect to amendments of the Town of Port Hawkesbury Municipal Planning Strategy and Land Use Bylaw regarding lots 141 to 149 Elm Court. At a special meeting of council held on October 12, 2021, the following motion was passed. Moved by Deputy Mayor Blaine McCrory, seconded by Councillor Jason Aucoin, that the Town of Port Hawkesbury sends a letter to Minister Lohr with context regarding the rezoning of Elm Court lots 141 to 149, with a copy sent to member of the Legislature Assembly, Alan McMaster. So that motion was passed at our special meeting. The letter states, and the letter really just tries to go through in chronological order what the town has considered over the last number of years from 2004 to 2021. The town council's decision to approve the subject amendments was made after considerable study of the issue. In 2004, while reviewing a proposal for residential developments on 141 to 149 Elm Street was underway, neighboring homeowners made a presentation to council and provided a petition to stop development. And that petition and letter is attached. Town of Port Hawkesbury at the time requested Eastern District Planning to review the complaint and to complete a planning report. The report, which was included in the correspondence to your department, included a recommendation that an engineering study be completed. An engineering study was completed of the properties under consideration and the neighboring properties to determine the extent and remediation required for drainage issues. And so we've attached that engineering study completed by Straight Engineering. It was the opinion of the engineers that the development would worsen the already significant issue and that drainage remediation projects would be needed during or prior to development. The Elm Street project did not move forward. In the summer of 2020, a number of vacant town-owned properties were listed for sale with the local realtor. Included in the properties listed was 141 to 149 Elm Street. As a result of complaints from neighboring residents, The properties were taken off the market until the issue could be reviewed. The affected residents made formal complaint and included a petition from Port Hawkesbury residents, and that is included in the letter. At our October 2020 public meeting, Council passed a formal motion to proceed with rezoning of the properties. Eastern District Planning was, as a result, tasked with studying and preparing a staff report. The staff report was completed, reviewed by Town's Planning Advisory Committee, and a recommendation to rezone lots 141 to 149 Elm Street was presented to Council and accepted. The town proceeded with approval of the amendments to our planning strategy and land use bylaw, following all required steps as laid out in the Municipal Government Act, resulting in the submitted filing pursuant to section 082 of the MGA. However, Hawkesbury would like to emphasize that Council feels that due consideration for rezoning was undertaken and that decisions were made in what was understood to be in the best interest of the residents of the town of Port Hawkesbury. Mayor and Council understand that planning strategies and land use bylaws amendments must be reviewed in terms of provincial statements of interest, and that lens may at times be in conflict with the municipality's wishes. Town Council does, however, feel that the issue should be reviewed in full context of multiple years of dealing with this issue. However, Hawkesbury Mayor and Councillors look to future meeting with you and your staff and having an opportunity to discuss initiatives and challenges. We very much appreciate the good work of your department. And that's signed by the mayor on behalf of the mayor and councillors. And it's copied to Honorable Alan McMaster, John Bain, and myself. And the attachments are listed as I've indicated in the letter.
Okay, thank you very much, Terry, for reading that through for the benefit of council as well as the gallery. So do you have any other additional comments or questions, Deputy Mayor?
Well, just to comment, just as Councillor Coyne did, I think the letter really sums it up quite well and goes over the history in great detail. And yeah, I'm very satisfied with the letter.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just jump in for 1 sec, please?
Sure, go ahead, Councillor Coyne.
For your worship to Terry. Terry, there's, I only noticed it now hearing it read. There is a typo, and it's Elm Court, not Elm Street. And I wouldn't want to see that confuse anybody.
I don't think Elm Street is indicated there. I think Terry just said street rather than court.
No, if you read the letter, it does say Elm Street.
Does it? Where at, Councillor Coyne?
In a couple of different spots, but if you look at the second line under the bold lettering,
yeah,
it says Town Council's decision to approve. You look down to 141, 149 Elm Street.
Oh yes, I see that. Yeah, thank you.
We can definitely correct that. Thank you, Councillor Coyne, for pointing that out. Yeah, we can definitely go through that for typos and correct any, replace street with court. Okay, thank you, Councillor Coyne. Over to you, Councillor McDougall.
No, Your Worship, I support the letter. We've been dealing with this now since 17 years. 2004, I was on council when we discussed some of this, but I don't think we can make a decision tonight. I think we have to wait till our November meeting to ratify this.
Yeah,
thank you.
Correct. Councillor McIver, over to you.
No, I have no problem, Your Worship. I think all the information is there. What Terry had sent out is in the package. If that's all going, it certainly tells the history of it. So I'm fine.
Okay, so is council comfortable with the, I guess, some of the errors corrected, like from a grammar perspective, but in terms of content, is council okay with the structure and the content of the letter so that it can be revised and ready to send, or do we want to wait for the November meeting before that occurs?
I'm
Your
not satisfied, Your Worship, to have it revised, but I think if we're in agreement, we could have it sent as well.
And I apologize, Deputy Mayor.
Is there a reason we would have to wait to the November meeting?
We could ratify the letter in the November meeting if council's comfortable with having the small changes made and sending it sooner rather than later. I apologize, Deputy Mayor. Somebody else was speaking prior to that, and I'm just not sure who it was because I'm not seeing any cameras on.
Your Worship, I just wanted to make a point of clarification, if that's okay.
Okay, sorry, Terry. I wasn't sure who that was. Go ahead, Terry.
I apologize. I butted in. So we have a motion to prepare the letter and that it be reviewed by council prior to be sending. I don't know that we need another motion, but whatever the wishes of council, but going on past history of how we've dealt with this before and the motion that was raised in special meeting, I think we're okay to send it. That's my opinion, but whatever the wish of council.
Sure. So Deputy Mayor McCrory has expressed definitely expressed his support of that option. Terry, Councillor Coyne, are you okay with that?
Yes, I'm okay with that. Once the couple typos are made, perfect.
Perfect. Councillor McDougall?
Yeah, I'm fine, Your Worship, yeah.
Councillor McIver?
Yes, Your Worship, I'm fine with the amendments to, I guess, consensus of council to put it through, and it could be ratified in November.
Your Worship, I don't recall having other letters come back before council after we've asked staff to draw them up and send them out for our review to actually have to come back to another public meeting to ratify them.
Well, through you, Your Worship, maybe if you want to get down to it, is that there's errors in the letter. So I'll change my mind, and when the errors are corrected, please send me a copy of the letter. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor McIver.
Yeah, Your Worship, that's the point of sending the letter out, is for review and to give input, and that's what we've done.
So perhaps, Terry, you can circulate a corrected version of the letter for council consensus, and then we can send it once everyone is satisfied that the letter is to everyone's liking.
Yes, Your Worship.
Okay, any other items that we need to discuss on the Elm Street zoning amendment letter? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on to our approved additions. The first item is seasonal services, and I've just been asked, I'm part of the seasonal services committee, and I've been asked to provide information to council that if council is willing, and I know we did have some wonderful volunteerism for our last seasonal services event from council, that if you wish, the date that the deliveries will be occurring is December 19th. So if you're all welcome to volunteer at 7 a.m. in front of Sobeys, if you would like to mark that on your calendars, and if you would like to volunteer, please reach out to myself or Kevin McCachran. And the recommendation is that you bring somebody with you for the purpose of delivering, and the person that assists needs to be 18 years of age or older. And that is all that I wanted to add. But if you have any questions or comments, I'm certainly happy to answer those. And if not, if they're at a later time, you can contact me about that as well.
You can put me down.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Will you be taking up a +1 with you?
Absolutely.
Thanks. And if anybody else needs time to just check their work schedules and to see if they're available, just let me know. At least at some point in early December, while we'll have to recruit some extra volunteers if we don't have enough numbers. And their second edition is Efficiency Nova Scotia Home Warming Program. So I'm going to hand things over to Councillor MacGyver for that item. Thank you, Councillor MacGyver.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm pretty sure that every councillor got the email from Kevin McCormick, who is a representative of Nova Scotia's home warming program. And in the email, it was stating that not enough people, eligible people on Cape Breton apply, and the money goes unspent. It's a very good program. It's no cost to the homeowner. There's a criteria that you have to meet. And I was just asking if maybe we could advertise it on our Facebook page and maybe the town website. And if any councillor knows anybody that could use repairs to their home, and the project involves like adding insulation to attics, walls, and basements, as well as reducing drafts. And it depends on the energy of assessment done on the home, but they can spend quite a bit of money, like $6,000 to $8,000 on a home, and it's no cost to the homeowner. So just putting that forth for information, and if council agrees to put it on our website and Facebook site, I'd appreciate it.
I certainly support that suggestion. It's a very good one, Councillor MacGyver, and especially if it's been super undersubscribed, it's important that we make sure that our citizens are aware, and also to follow up on that citizens are able to take advantage of it if they qualify under the criteria that's set. Is council supportive of that idea that Councillor MacGyver has put forward?
Yes, Your Worship.
Councillor McDougall?
Yeah, for sure, Your Worship. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Coyne?
Yes, absolutely. Could we possibly add that letter to our agenda to have it on our public meeting in November, maybe?
That's a great suggestion. Maybe we can create a little bit more public awareness about the program. It's a good suggestion.
Maybe the media scrum afterwards will ask questions and we'll get it on the radio and whatnot.
Sure, that's a great suggestion. Yeah, we can add it under correspondence perhaps.
Thank you.
So that it sounds like council's supportive of that suggestion. Thank you, Councillor MacGyver. So our almost last agenda item is future meetings. So the first Tuesday of November will be our next public meeting. And now I would ask council for a motion of adjournment.
Motion moved.
Seconded.
That was so fast. Councillor Coyne, do we have a seconder?
Seconded.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor McCrory, I believe.
Yes.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All right.
Contrary minded. Okay, the motion is approved. We are adjourned. Thank you everyone for your time.
Take care.